My thoughts were getting out of control. I needed to focus on why I was in the middle of nowhere living on a Dr. Pepper buzz. The answer was up the road, and there was no more procrastinating. Either he was there or he wasn't. I got back in the Jeep and drove. Last night getting to the house seemed to take forever, but in less than 5 minutes I arrived. I put the Jeep in park and turned it off, sitting in slack-jawed wonder as I stared at the building in broad daylight, letting my mind spin as it tackled the issue confronting me. A thick, rust-pocked chain stretched across the front entrance with a "Private Property" sign dangling from its center. There was a bright neon yellow and black "Condemned" sign pounded into the ground in front of the building. How had I missed that? Right Brain happily noted that the "Danger" sign was still in place, hanging next to the hole where the door should have been. My logical side sputtered, and quickly decided someone must have unlocked the chain last night for the party. Not the most brilliant deduction I'd ever made. That would mean someone had held a New Year's party in a condemned house in a pouring rainstorm. I opened the door and got out, noting there was only one set of tire tracks going in and one leading out of the parking lot. Mine. No evidence existed that anyone besides me had been here last night, or for the last 50 years for that matter. The gravel was thick with weeds, fully grown trees, and even more startling, full of deep, water-filled potholes. It was physically impossible that I could have missed all of those obstacles driving in the dark. I ignored logic and ducked under the chain that blocked the entrance. While I couldn't explain anything that happened here, I realized I was completely unwilling to accept he wasn't real. My heart frantically insisted he was. If I couldn't peg logic, what made me think logic could peg him? I looked closer at the building. Last night I remembered a mansion-sized shadow. In the light of day, the mansion became what was left of an old plantation with a bell tower, minus a bell. The porch, which I remember being deep and covered, actually sagged with age, making what was left of the structure look as if it had a broken jaw. My recollection went from bad to worse. Although there was ample evidence that 13 cement steps had existed, they were cracked, broken down, and some were rubble. It would have been, should have been, impossible to bounce up them the way I had last night. If it hadn't been for the 13 steps, I would have sworn it wasn't the same place. My eyes wandered over the forlorn structure and noted that a fire had completely gutted it and eaten 2 walls. A large blue spruce was growing up through a hole in the most collapsed part of the roof, right next to the bell tower. I stepped back and looked down. What I saw made me gasp. At the place I remember parking, tire tracks were showing on either side of a tree trunk. That sent logic into a tailspin, and my creative side began a cackling chorus of, "It's for real, I told you so." I didn't know how long I stood there staring at the ruin like an idiot, but eventually logic dizzily reasserted itself. "They can't be your tracks." "Go away," I informed logic. The hours without sleep combined with these newest pieces of puzzle boggled my weary mind. I had to get some rest. I couldn't continue the way I was going. I was too tired to think, to reason, or do anything but return to the Jeep in utter defeat. Worst of all was the mind-numbing loss that hit me harder than anything else. He wasn't here. I'd had no idea that I was counting on seeing him this badly. Logic gained strength and assumed control as I turned away. I needed sleep, food, and to get back home and stop believing in ghosts. In that order. I crossed back under the chain to the Jeep, climbed in, and backed up, taking one last tearful look in the rearview mirror as I put the Jeep in drive and pulled away. That's when I saw him. He was standing next to the tree where the tire tracks shouldn't have been, watching me leave. His handsome features looked as defeated as I felt, like he was in pain. Then he was running toward me, panicked, looking like he was yelling, stunned, disbelieving, hopeful. I slammed on the brakes so he could catch me. It saved my life.